Yeah, so I know that the Pentagon had some like press changes, I think, where they were going to, stop having America Last news organizations come in and ask them tough questions, or like ask them America hating questions like, uh, what are we trying to accomplish in this war? Or um, why do you hate gay people so much? Or, like stuff like that. Like all of these, or like, why did or how did Iran take out that F-35? All of these woke ass questions that we ain't got time for when we're out there, uh, when we're out there accomplishing every goal that we haven't told you, and you're just out there complaining that we aren't winning the war. So I think that they just said like no confrontational press is going to be allowed into the Pentagon press conferences, where I've watched a lot of videos with Keg's Breath out there, and to be honest, he needs as much help as he can get. He doesn't need any hard questions, so maybe it's for the best. But anyway, apparently a judge is not liking it. A judge is calling it weird. So let's go ahead and read this article, see if we can find out what's going on here. Let me see how long it is. Not very long. Okay. What's going on? U.S. judge calls aspects of new Pentagon press policy weird. Judge seems skeptical of Pentagon's restrictive protocol, but did not rule on forcing compliance with an earlier order. Federal Judge Paul Friedman seems skeptical of the new press policy implemented by the Pentagon last week, calling aspects of it weird and Kafkaesque. Friedman struck down key aspects of the previously implemented Pentagon media policy on March 20th, but at the latest hearing on Monday stopped short of ruling on a motion filed by the New York Times to force compliance of his decision. Friedman was particularly skeptical about the ways in which the press space was being provided to the 7 New York Times reporters, whom he previously ruled should have their press access badges returned. Okay. So this is the woke New York Times trying to come into the press conference, and I guess they're not being allowed to. So let's see. The Times, along with dozens of other news organizations, chose not to sign the new restrictions implemented by the Pentagon last fall and returned their long held passes. The Times sued the Trump administration over the policy. I don't quite know exactly what the policy was. I'm assuming they'll get into it. Julianne Barnes, one of the Times reporters at issue, had attested that he was told that library space was available for the journalists to use while the Pentagon built out a new space on the Pentagon grounds for all credentialed media workers to use. That he was told that library space was okay. But he wrote in a statement, the Pentagon press office staff indicated that they were unsure how we could access the library. How weird is that? Friedman, a district court judge, said on Monday. Is it Catch-22? Is it Kafka? What's going on? That hardly seems consistent with right of access and First Amendment. Lawyers for the government responded that a decision had been made to allow the Times reporters to use a Pentagon shuttle to reach the library. I'm very confused about what the original... Okay, I need to look up what the original thing was. What do we got? Okay, so I guess they moved stuff around. The official press workspace is being moved to an annex facility outside the main Pentagon building. Journalists are no longer allowed to move freely within the Pentagon. All movement requires an escort. Policies prohibit requesting unapproved information with potential to revoke credentials for soliciting info from personnel. So you're not allowed to ask questions. Despite court rulings calling previous rules unconstitutional, the Pentagon has maintained strict requirements prompting further. Okay, yeah. So I guess they just made a lot of shit harder for reporters in general, is kind of what I'm gathering from just like what I saw on my screen. So, okay. Theodore J. Boutreau Jr., a lawyer representing the Times, charged that the administration was blatantly flouting the court's order by announcing the closure of the press space known as Correspondence Corridor, and by creating a new policy that requires journalists to be escorted around the building by Pentagon staff member. I guess, yeah, basically treating them like babies. But also obviously requiring, significantly more resources to facilitate, their freedom of speech rights, spending a lot of money just because they're, little bitches who can't take tough questions. But nothing will stop them, he said. Not a court order, not an injunction. With the new requirement requiring escorts, Boutreau said Pentagon press credentials were now worthless. They've made the press credentials that we fought so hard to get back a meaningless piece of plastic, he added. They violated the First Amendment. As he had during a previous hearing, the judge expressed alarm that journalists could be penalized for asking questions of military officials, which he said they had the right to do, and that a Pentagon employee could simply decline to answer. Yeah, no shit, they have a right to do. They don't only have a right to do, they have a duty to do. That's their whole job. The new policy includes language stating that by offering anonymity to a Pentagon employee, a journalist would be demonstrating knowledge that the employee was not authorized to disclose the information, thereby putting their press pass at risk. Okay, so they were asking people to answer questions anonymously, or like if they weren't willing to give up their name, to answer it anonymously, which obviously is just like where a lot of leaks and stuff come from, right? Like people who are unhappy with the direction of the military or the Pentagon will often almost exclusively be anonymous so that they don't, risk losing their fucking job if they go and talk to a press, or go talk to the press. So basically the Pentagon is just making that illegal, or at least something that they can punish the press for doing, is what it sounds like. But the judge seemed skeptical that a source using anonymity suggested that they were leaking classified information, even though they probably were. Aren't there lots of reasons why people in government ask for anonymity, he asked. People ask for anonymity because they're afraid of retribution or because their bosses won't like it, he said, suggesting that it could create a chilling effect. Of course. Timothy Parlator, who played a central role in designing the revamped press restrictions announced last fall, told reporters after the hearing that the new restrictions didn't bar questions, but prevented journalists from trying to force reluctant staffers to reveal information after they had indicated they would not do so. Sure. That's, technical, like technicalities, rhetorical trickery. It's what our entire, now that we live in this Orwellian version of the United States of America, where up is down and left is right, this sort of rhetorical trickery is just something that I expect at this point. Just like nothing means anything. Anything means whatever you want. Who cares what the court says? I don't know. That's kind of just the age we're living in. What we're talking about here are when they go to department employees and they say, hey, can you tell me about this? And the employee's like, no, I don't want to talk to you. And they say, well, what if I give you anonymity? Will you talk to me then? Then they're trying to get somebody to talk who's already said that they don't want to talk, he said. That's stupid, because he could obviously just say no again if he wants to, if he doesn't want to talk. This is just good journalism. But he also said that the Pentagon did not plan to go through articles and try to determine who the anonymous sources were, but would act if an employee conveyed that a reporter had asked them to disclose classified information, something that would be barred under the language of the new policy. Anytime a person with a security clearance has somebody that approaches them to try to solicit that information, they're supposed to report that, he said. That is stupid. It's not the reporter's job. It is not the reporter's job to not get classified information. It is the person with classified information clearance's job not to tell classified information. Now, many reporters will, if they do get classified information, will restrain it or not actually report on it due to some like fealty or duty to the United States government. Which I say, fuck that. No, everything should be declassified, in my opinion. I mean, I understand that there are some things that like are sensitive to our goals or whatever, but usually it's really evil shit and bad shit that I would like to know about. You know, they said like, oh, Snowden or whatever, he was the one who released all of the 9/11 stuff, right? I always get him and the other guy confused. Or the drone strikes? Was he the drone strikes guy? Oh, no, I get him and the other one confused, but they released a ton of classified information, and that like oh, is the government surveillance programs. That's right, of American civilians in particular. Okay, yeah. Uh, like they released a ton of classified information to the public, and that was a good thing because it was information that we should know about. And yes, it did complicate the American State Department's goals that they were trying to accomplish when we learned about all of the you know, the surveillance of our own people, or we learned about all of the drone strikes or like of civilians in the Middle East or whatever. um that is something like that they didn't want us to know because it did get in the way of their goals for the American populace to know that and be opposed to it. So the whole idea that like it would get in the way of the American State Department and their like, you know, their desires and goals is like, in my opinion, not a good reason to to not leak classified information or not report classified information, because usually it's just like really evil shit. You can use your judgment also as a news reporter if you really think that it's something that shouldn't be released to the public. Although I don't trust most of our news reporters to like make that assessment correctly, because I would guess that they would put a lot of stuff that I wouldn't in that bucket. Like I bet they would all protect like the Epstein class generally, if I had to guess, all of these reporters. But okay. Sorry, I got a little distracted. I don't even remember where I was. I think right here. He also said that the Pentagon did not plan to go through articles and try to determine who the anonymous sources were, but would act. Oh, I think I already read that. Okay. Parlator asked about the judge's invocation of the Joseph Heller novel Catch 22, said it was based on creative misinterpretations by the New York Times lawyers and a fictional interpretation of the policy. Parlator asked about the judge's. Yeah. The goal of the press policy, Parlator said, was to reduce leaks of classified information. There is a significant amount of leaks of classified information, and that was something that the department has an obligation, a statutory obligation, to try to stop. Depends on the information, but yeah. Catch 22 is a good book. Anybody who hasn't read it, it does go into a lot of the absurdity of the military, and just how like both funny and sad it is. And I think that that is a pretty apt analysis of what's going on here, or like an apt like reference to make in what's going on here, if I had to say. Parlator claimed that the policy had already paid dividends in a decrease of leaked classified information. At the end of the hearing, the judge asked a lawyer for the government, Sarah Welch, to submit by the end of the day a brief explaining the case law basis for creating a new press policy in response to a court order striking down the crux of the previous policy. Amid the U.S. war on Iran, time is of the essence, Boutreau, the Times lawyer, said. There's a war going on and the American people are shut down from information. Yep. Yeah, we sure are. You know what? But what are you gonna do? I mean, it does suck. It does suck. We do need people in there asking and getting as many leaks as possible if we're going to have an informed public that is able to make okay decisions when it comes to the ballot box. But you know that is not the goal of the American military. So